Next to me is the all-new Maserati Granturismo. It's fast, it's sexy, and features the engine from the MC20. So, what is it like to drive, and is it just as good, if not better, than the old V8 powered GT? Well, today, we're gonna find out exactly that. The new Granturismo platform makes way for the first ever all-electric Maserati, the Folgore. Yes, that's right, you can get the GT with either an internal combustion engine, the Nettuno from the MC20, or with 3 electric motors. This version of the Granturismo is called the Trofeo. It's got a 3-liter twin-turbocharged V6, the Nettuno engine from the MC20, that makes 542 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. If you want to save a bit of money and don't care as much about the power, you can get the entry-level Modena spec, which comes with 483 horsepower. That's thanks to smaller turbochargers. The Folgore looks virtually identical to the Trofeo, which is a good thing because this is a spectacular-looking car. Only that makes 818 horsepower due to those 3 electric motors. And 0 to 60 happens in 2.6 seconds. And apparently the range is 280 miles, so I really want to get my hands on one of those to review. Now, the Trofeo is no slouch. Thanks to its all-wheel drive and ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, 0 to 60 happens in 3.3 seconds. And its mid-range torque punches you in the back all the way up to its top speed of 199 miles an hour. The design of the Granturismo is evolutionary as opposed to revolutionary. It already was a spectacular looking car, so why reinvent the wheel? Just like the Porsche 911, it's an iteration of a classic, beautiful design. We of course have the signature massive grille with the Trident logo in the front. Now the Trofeo spec gives you a little bit more aggressive front fascia, rear diffuser, side skirts, but most importantly, it gives you an electronically controlled limited slip rear differential. We also have these gorgeous modernized headlights and some cool vent work in the hood. Of course, we have the signature triple vents on the side of the Maserati Granturismo. What's really cool is in the Folgore, these actually illuminate, which is a really nice touch. Easiest way to tell the difference between all the trims is this one says Trofeo, it could say Modena, and it could say Folgore. We have 20-inch wheels in the front, 21s in the back, 265 section tires, and 2 95s in the rear. 6-piston Brembo brakes in the front. It stops really, really quickly. 4 pistons in the rear. Multi-link rear suspension, double wishbone front suspension with air springs. Due to this, it's got 3 levels of ride height control. If you put it into Corsa mode, it rides low, normal mode, and it's got a lifted mode for comfort as well. The back of the Granturismo is really nice as well. We've got these sharp taillights, quad exhaust, larger rear diffuser because of that Trofeo, Granturismo written in cursive across the back. We also have the largest rear trunk of any Granturismo with 11 cubic feet of storage space, a large improvement over prior generations. The Granturismo is of course a 2+2, and at 5'11", I actually have a little bit of headroom left. Shoulder room is not bad either. USB-C and USB-A charging ports, as well as cup holders and some climate control back here. Let's go ahead and pull this seat forward to see if I have any leg room. Obviously, this is going to be ideal for kids or extra storage space, but honestly, it's a pretty good amount of space back here for a sports coupe. The interior is where we see the most radical improvement from the previous generation Granturismo. If you compare this to a 2019, it almost feels like it was built by an entirely different manufacturer, and I mean that in a good way. The interior is really, really well done. It's got a customizable instrument cluster that's 12.2 inches. It will actually change based on what driving mode we're in. So we've got a drive mode selector here on the steering wheel. Turn that to the right to go from comfort to GT. Then we can go into sport mode. The dials get a little more aggressive, and then if we go into Corsa mode, it has an entirely different tachometer. If we go over to the right, we've got a 12.3-inch digital infotainment system that is fantastic. One of my favorite modes, the Drive Mode Explorer. This actually shows you all of the differences between the different driving modes. It gives you a little graph for responsiveness, stiffness, acceleration, etc. We're in Corsa mode. Let's put it into comfort mode for a comparison. It's pretty cool. It's got different graphics as well. Another thing I really like, if you go into performance, you can go ahead and select drag race, and you can actually test your 0 to 60 times, your 1/8 mile, 1/4 mile time using the computer. You can also go to torque management, shows you a torque split, which is pretty cool as well. Now down below that, we've got an 8.8-inch touchscreen for the climate controls. I will say the only confusing part about this car is when it was delivered, it came with the auto headlights turned off. So when I drove it at nighttime, I couldn't figure out how to turn the lights on for a while. There's no switch to the left of the steering wheel. You actually have to go into this climate control screen, click on the little light button, and change it to auto or off or on, etc. Another cool thing, you can click the clock button, and then this analog clock here can be changed between a clock, a compass. You can change it to pedals, which it shows you whether you're on the brake or on the gas, which is pretty cool. And it can also be a G meter. Over to the right, we've also got different ambient light controls. The other point that I'm not the biggest fan of is this drive control selector right here. Sometimes when you put it into drive, it takes a couple clicks. It's not quite as responsive as I would like. And I'd like the fact, if you were in park, if you pulled the right paddle, if that would put it into drive. All right, let's see what this thing's like to drive. Now look, the elephant in the room is of course the fact that the Gran Turismo no longer has that glorious sounding V8. Now, while I wish they could have a 458 Speciale derived V8, naturally aspirated, revving to 9,000 RPM that makes 600 horsepower, it's unfortunately not possible. But that being said, the Nettuno power plant is seriously good. It's got so much torque. And for a twin turbocharged V6, it's got some serious character to it. Does it sound as good as a naturally aspirated V8? Obviously not. But this car is so much faster than its predecessor, it's not even funny. And because of that mid-range torque, it's more usable around town. And I understand that Maserati has to go in that direction. Of course, if they could put a V12 in it, they probably would. But I definitely don't think that the Nettuno engine is a shortcoming of this car. If anything, it provides a whole new character to the driving experience that is pretty impressive. And honestly, between shifts, it makes some pretty cool noises. And when you're full on the gas in Corsa mode, it does sound pretty good. We've got all-wheel drive. We've shifted it into Corsa mode, which has ESC reduced. That 8-speed ZF shifts very fast. We've got tons of grip because of that all-wheel drive. And while it is a big vehicle and it has a little bit of body roll, it is pretty confidence-inspiring in the twisties when you really start to push it, particularly due to those brakes. And then you've got so much torque coming out of the corners. Pick up the pace a bit. Yeah, this thing is confidence-inspiring. That all-wheel drive is phenomenal. And 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. It's a quick car for sure. Little tire squeal there. And then while it's a good sports car, it's an even better GT car. So let's go ahead and put it into comfort mode. That's going to loosen up that suspension, raise the ride height a bit. The steering's gonna be softer. The throttle response is gonna be softer. Now to put it back into drive, we click on this button here so it's no longer in manual mode. I'm not the biggest fan of those controls, but that's all right. Honestly, as a daily driver, this thing is incredibly comfortable. The suspension does an amazing job of just gliding over bumps. And then when you put it into Corsa mode, having limited body roll. The display changes here. You don't hear nearly as much exhaust. You're kind of isolated from the outside world. You've got awesome creature comforts, a really good sound system, wireless Apple CarPlay, wired Apple CarPlay as well, which I've been using for the week that I've had this. The display works very, very well. The graphics are awesome in the infotainment. I also love the design of these seats. They're absolutely gorgeous. And while a black interior might be a bit more subtle, this red interior looks so cool. It's gotten a lot of compliments while I've had this car, and I think it just suits the nature of the Gran Turismo, especially with a white exterior. I also love this analog clock here that can also be used as a power meter, G-force, etc. I think that is a pretty darn cool feature. And the interior just feels leagues above the previous generation Gran Turismo. I mean, it's not even close. We also have Maserati active lane keep assist, so it can effectively drive itself within the lanes, active cruise control, etc. We've got a heads-up display that works really nice, and when you put it into Corsa mode, it gives you this kind of analog horizontal tachometer that looks like it's straight out of a race car. In all the other modes, I'm sure it's customizable. It's showing me basically the curves on the road. So I've got this little kind of rally instruction ahead of me. Visibility is fantastic. It's a really easy car to drive.
It doesn't feel small by any means, but it doesn't feel large and cumbersome either. It doesn't feel quite as beefy and large as something like a Bentley Continental GT. I really like that Maserati has kept the same design for the Folgore as the Granturismo. This is such a pretty car. There was absolutely no reason to come up with some super futuristic, overly rounded, bulbous looking electric car. For instance, Mercedes, their S-Class looked fantastic. Why did they have to make the electric S-Class, the EQS, look so bad? So this, you've got a spectacular looking vehicle, and I think because they chose to make it look the same as the Granturismo, the Folgore is gonna sell extremely well. Personally, I love the way it looks, and I think some of the added little features like the illuminated side vents is such a cool addition to an already spectacular car. I really do wanna get behind the wheel of one of those. 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, decent amount of range, and killer looks. That's gonna be one heck of an electric car. Overall, I think it's an excellent GT car. If you're looking for a really sharp sports car, definitely look at the MC20. Surprisingly, the price difference isn't all that much. I actually thought the MC20 should be priced significantly above the Granturismo based on the overall driving experience. The Trofeo starts at $205,000 for the GT. I believe the Folgore is a little bit more than that, and then the Modena is in the $180,000 range if you want to save a bit of money and have a little bit less power. And I'm sure on that car, you could obviously tune it and make more power than this anyways. Given the fact that it is a twin turbocharged platform, the tuning capability, I'm sure, is endless. I don't believe anyone's cracked the software yet for the MC20. I haven't seen a tuned one yet, but once those start becoming modified, that's going to be really, really awesome. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.